I always thought betrayal would feel like a gunshot, sharp, sudden, unmistakable. Instead, it crept in through a crack in my office door on a Tuesday afternoon, carried by my husband's whispered words to his secretary. Anne's dead weight, Marissa. I've already talked to the lawyers. We'll file after the Johnson merger closes next month. My name is Anne, and that's how I discovered my 15-year marriage was over. Crouched behind my desk like a teenager, having returned early from lunch to grab my forgotten phone. What about the prenup? Marissa's voice was barely audible, but the eagerness in it made my stomach turn. Don't worry about that. Dylan's laugh, the same one that once made me weak in the knees at a college party, now felt like acid in my veins. She signed it thinking it protected both of us. Poor thing never had a head for business. I pressed my hand against my mouth, fighting the urge to vomit. Through the crack, I could see them. Dylan's hand on Marissa's waist, her perfectly manicured fingers trailing down his tie. "And the house?" she asked. "All mine. The trust paid for it. She'll be lucky to keep her car." He pulled her closer. "I was thinking we could renovate once she's gone. That kitchen she loves so much, we'll gut it." The kitchen I'd spent months designing. The one where I'd hosted countless dinner parties, where I'd nursed Dylan through food poisoning, where I'd cried over 3 miscarriages while he held me. "When will you tell her?" "Soon, but first, I need to move some accounts around. Can't have her getting suspicious." My phone buzzed in my pocket, my sister Bailey's name lighting up the screen. I declined the call, my hands shaking. "You're sure about this?" Marissa's voice had dropped to a purr. "No second thoughts?" "Please, Anne's been living in a fantasy world since day one. She actually thought I married her for love." His chuckle felt like sandpaper on my skin. "It was convenient at the time, the perfect wife image, you know? But I'm done playing house." The kiss that followed made me dig my nails into my palms until I felt skin break. 15 years reduced to playing house. They left shortly after, their footsteps fading down the hallway. I stayed frozen behind my desk, watching dust motes dance in the afternoon light, until my phone buzzed again. "Annie?" Bailey's voice was concerned. "You okay? You never ignore my calls." I opened my mouth to respond, but nothing came out. "Anne, talk to me. Can you—" I swallowed hard. "Can you come over tonight? Don't tell anyone." "What's wrong?" "Everything." I watched a drop of blood fall from my palm onto my cream-colored skirt. Everything's wrong. That evening, I sat in my beloved kitchen, mechanically stirring a cup of tea gone cold. Bailey perched on the counter, her face growing darker as I recounted what I'd overheard. "That son of a bitch," she breathed. "I'll kill him." "No." I set down my spoon. "I have a better idea. Anne, he thinks I'm stupid, naive, dead weight." I stood up, something hot and fierce replacing the numbness in my chest. "He's about to learn how wrong he is. What are you going to do?" I walked to the window, watching Dylan's BMW pull into the driveway. "Remember Gianna from college, the one who became a divorce attorney? The shark in heels? Yeah. I think it's time we caught up." I turned to face my sister, surprised to find my hands had stopped shaking. "He wants to play games? Fine. But he forgot something important." "What's that?" "I've been watching him play for 15 years. I deleted the text he'd just sent. Another lie about working late. I know all his moves." Bailey slipped off the counter, grabbing her purse. "Want me to stay?" "No." I smiled, and it felt like baring teeth. "I need to greet my husband. He's had such a long, hard day at the office." As Bailey left through the back door, I heard Dylan's key in the lock. Time to start my performance as the loving, naive wife. But behind my smile, my mind was already racing, cataloging every suspicious late night, every hidden phone call, every questionable business trip. He thought I was dead weight. He was about to discover just how heavy I could be. "Honey," his voice called from the foyer. "Are you home?" "In the kitchen, darling," I called back, my voice sweet as poison. "I made your favorite dinner." The game was on, and this time I was playing to win. Gianna hadn't changed much since college. Same razor-sharp smile, same no-nonsense attitude. She listened without interrupting, as I laid out everything I'd overheard, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against her desk. "Let me get this straight," she said, leaning forward. "He's planning to blindside you with divorce papers after the Johnson merger, which is 3 weeks away." I handed her a stack of papers I'd gathered over the past week. "But he's already moving money around. I've been tracking his accounts." She raised an eyebrow. "How'd you manage that?" 15 years of marriage means 15 years of passwords, PIN numbers, and security questions I helped him create. I pulled up my phone. Plus, he still uses our anniversary for everything. Ironic, right? "Show me what you've found." I pulled up screenshots of suspicious transfers, small amounts at first, then larger sums moving between accounts I'd never seen before. "Look at this one." I pointed to a transaction from 2 days ago. $500,000 to an offshore account. Gianna's eyes narrowed. "Does the timing of these transfers correlate with anything?" "Funny you should ask." I pulled out a calendar where I'd marked dates in red. Every major transfer happened within 24 hours of him having dinner meetings with Marissa. "You've done your homework," Gianna said approvingly. "But we need more. Any chance you can access his office computer?" I smiled. "Already did, yesterday, while he was at lunch." I made air quotes with my fingers. "Found some interesting emails between him and Marissa discussing their post-divorce plans. They're looking at houses in the Hamptons." "With what money?" Gianna's eyes glinted. "Exactly." I pulled out one final document. "And here's where it gets interesting. Remember that kitchen renovation he promised Marissa? He's planning to pay for it with money from the Johnson merger, money that technically belongs to his investors." Gianna whistled low. "Securities fraud. That's federal territory." My phone buzzed. A text from Bailey. "AD just picked up M at her apartment, heading north on Madison." "Your sister's tailing them?" Gianna asked, impressed. "She borrowed her boyfriend's car. They won't recognize it." I checked my watch. "They're probably headed to their usual hotel, the one he expenses as client meetings." "Anne," Gianna set down the papers. "You know gathering evidence is one thing, but if you're right about the fraud—" "I know." I met her eyes. "But he made his choice when he decided to treat me like an idiot. Now he gets to live with the consequences." My phone buzzed again. This time it was Dylan. "Working late tonight, honey. Don't wait up." "Got another question for you," Gianna said, watching me text back a loving reply. "How are you holding it together, acting normal around him?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You know what's funny? He's so convinced of my stupidity, he doesn't even notice I'm acting. I could probably serve him divorce papers over breakfast, and he'd still think I was asking what he wanted in his coffee." Speaking of coffee, Gianna reached for her phone. "I'm calling in reinforcements. My forensic accountant owes me a favor." "How much is all this going to cost?" I asked, suddenly worried. Gianna's smile turned predatory. "Oh, don't worry about that. When we're done, Dylan will be paying my bills. Now tell me more about these investor meetings he's been having." For the next hour, we pieced together a timeline of Dylan's activities. Every receipt, every email, every suspicious transaction formed another link in the chain I was building around him. My phone buzzed one more time. Bailey again. "They're checking out. Want me to follow them back?" "No," I texted back. "I've got what I need." "One more thing," Gianna said, as I gathered my papers. "We need to be strategic about timing. The moment he realizes you know, everything changes. You ready for that?" I thought about the morning's goodbye kiss, how he'd smiled and told me he loved me while probably thinking about Marissa. More than ready. I stood up, straightening my jacket. "But first, I need to make a stop at the bank. There's a joint account I need to empty before any more money mysteriously disappears." "That's my girl." Gianna walked me to the door. "And Anne, remember, document everything, every conversation, every text, every time he's late. We're not just building a divorce case anymore." As I walked to my car, My phone lit up with another text from Dylan. Miss you, beautiful. Be home soon. I took a screenshot, added it to my evidence folder, and typed back, miss you too, darling. Dinner will be waiting. Let him think I was still his loving, naive wife. Soon enough, he'd learn just how expensive underestimating me would be. Sunday dinner at my parents' house had always been a tradition. But tonight it felt like walking into a minefield. Dylan's hand rested possessively on my lower back as we entered, his wedding ring catching the light, the same ring he'd taken off at the hotel with Marissa 3 days ago. There's my favorite couple. Mom rushed forward, pulling us both into a hug. Anne, honey, you've lost weight. Are you eating enough? She's been stressed about work, Dylan answered for me, his concern perfectly pitched. I keep telling her to take it easy. I caught Bailey's eye across the room. She was gripping her wine glass so tightly, I thought it might shatter. Well, come sit down, Dad called from his armchair. Dylan, how's that Johnson merger coming along? Actually, I cut in before Dylan could respond. I'd love to hear about that too, honey. You've been working so many late nights on it. A flicker of something, annoyance, worry, crossed his face before his smooth smile returned, just dotting the I's and crossing the T's now. Should be wrapped up soon. Speaking of wrapping things up, Mom said, when are you two going to give me grandchildren? Your cousin Rachel just had her third, and… Mom, Bailey interrupted sharply. Maybe lay off the baby talk. An awkward silence fell. I took a long sip of wine, remembering the last miscarriage, how Dylan had held me in our kitchen. Now I wondered if he'd been texting Marissa even then. Actually, Dylan said, squeezing my shoulder, we've been talking about trying again, haven't we, sweetheart? The wine turned to acid in my stomach. Have we? Of course, remember our conversation last week. We hadn't had a real conversation in months. I forced a smile. Must have slipped my mind. Oh, that would be wonderful. Mom clasped her hands together. You two are such a perfect couple. Anne, you're so lucky to have found such a devoted husband. Bailey made a choking sound that she covered with a cough. Dinner's ready, Dad announced, clearly sensing tension. We moved to the dining room, where Mom had outdone herself as usual. As we settled in, I noticed how everyone seemed to orbit around Dylan. Dad asking about investments, Mom hanging on his every word. So, Anne, my Aunt Patricia asked between bites, how's the volunteer work going? Still helping at that women's shelter? Actually, I've been thinking of taking on a bigger role there, I said. Maybe even starting a legal aid program for women going through difficult divorces. Dylan's fork clattered against his plate. That's the first I'm hearing about this. Really? I met his eyes. I could have sworn I mentioned it during one of your late nights at the office. Anne, Mom cut in, frowning. You have such a wonderful life. Why would you want to spend time with those kinds of women? What kinds of women would those be, Mom? Bailey asked sweetly. The ones who stand up for themselves. I just mean, Mom flustered. Well, Anne has such a perfect marriage. Those poor women, they probably just didn't try hard enough. Or maybe, I said quietly, they tried too hard to believe in something that wasn't real. The table fell silent. Dylan reached for my hand, his touch making my skin crawl. Sweetheart, you seem tense. Maybe we should head home early. No, I pulled my hand away, standing up. I need some air, alone. I walked out to the back porch, gripping the railing until my knuckles turned white. The door opened behind me. Annie, it was Dad. You okay, kiddo? Did you know, I said, without turning around, that Mom cried at my wedding because she thought I'd finally found my perfect ending? Your mother, he sighed. She wants to believe in fairy tales. And what do you believe in, Dad? He was quiet for a moment. I believe my daughter's stronger than she knows. I turned to face him, tears threatening. Even if I do something that disappoints everyone. Anne, he started, but Dylan appeared in the doorway. Ready to go home, beautiful? His smile was perfect, practiced. Everything about him was. I wiped my eyes, straightening my shoulders. Of course, darling. Let me just say goodbye to Mom. As we drove home, Dylan's hand found my knee. That was a bit dramatic, wasn't it? All that talk about divorce and standing up for yourself. Was it? I kept my voice light. I thought you'd be proud of me, taking an interest in legal matters. His hand tightened slightly. Just don't get any ideas. You know how your mother worries. Oh, don't worry, I said, watching his reflection in the window. I won't do anything without careful planning first. He laughed, missing my meaning entirely. That's my girl. Yes, I thought, your girl. For exactly 3 more weeks. The fake lead worked better than I'd hoped. One carefully planted document about a potential investor lawsuit, and Dylan's carefully constructed world started showing cracks. Edmund, I heard him hiss into his phone from his home office. Someone's asking questions about the offshore accounts. Did you say something? I pressed record on my phone, positioning myself near the door. What do you mean you're having second thoughts? Dylan's voice rose. We're too far in to back out now. No, listen to me. Just keep everything quiet until after the merger closes. My phone buzzed. Gianna, got the bank records you requested. You need to see these now. Everything okay in there? I called out sweetly, knocking on Dylan's door. Fine, he snapped, then caught himself. Just fine, honey. Business call. I headed to my car, supposedly for yoga class, but drove straight to Gianna's office. She was waiting with a thick folder and an expression that meant trouble. Look at this. She spread documents across her desk. Every time Dylan transferred money to that offshore account, an equal amount was withdrawn in cash within 48 hours. By who? That's the interesting part. She pointed to a signature. Marissa Sullivan. My hands shook as I examined the withdrawal slips. How much total? Just over $2 million. Gianna leaned back. But here's where it gets better. Remember Edmund, Dylan's best friend, the one he was just yelling at? He's been asking questions, called my office this morning, wanting to know if I handle corporate whistleblower cases. I sat down hard. He's turning on Dylan. Getting nervous is more like it. Says he has documentation of systematic fraud going back 3 years. Gianna's smile was sharp. Want to guess who else was involved? Marissa. Bingo. She's been cooking the books since she started as Dylan's secretary. Edmund has proof. My phone buzzed again. Bailey. Dee just picked up M. They're fighting in the car. Perfect timing, I murmured, showing Gianna the text. Their little paradise is crumbling. There's more. Gianna pulled out another document. Remember that prenup you signed? The one protecting both of us? I laughed bitterly. Yeah. Look at the notary stamp. I squinted at the page. It's different from the copy I have at home, because this is the real version, the one you signed. Clever forgery. Dylan had it swapped out right after the wedding. The room spun slightly. Is that why he's so confident about the divorce? Was confident, Gianna corrected. This invalidates everything. Plus, with the fraud evidence, my phone rang, Dylan's face lighting up the screen. Answer it, Gianna mouthed, hitting record on her desk phone. Hi, honey. I kept my voice light. Where are you? He sounded agitated. You're not at yoga. Oh, I finished early, having coffee with Bailey. Don't lie to me. His tone turned ugly. I just saw Bailey at the office. I let silence stretch for 3 seconds. Well, then I guess we're both lying about where we are today, aren't we? What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, darling. Just that your secretary might want to be more discreet about withdrawing cash. $2 million leaves quite a paper trail. The sharp intake of breath on his end was deeply satisfying. And he started, don't worry, I'm heading home now. We can discuss it over dinner. You're coming home for dinner, aren't you? Or should I only set one place? I hung up before he could respond. That, Gianna said admiringly, was beautiful. He'll be scrambling now. I gathered the documents. How long before he figures out how much I know? Long enough. She handed me a business card. This is the FBI agent handling the fraud investigation. Edmund's already given a statement. My hands were steady as I took the card. What now? Now, you go home and act normal. Let him sweat. She stood up. And Anne, be careful. Cornered animals are dangerous. I drove home slowly, watching Dylan's car pull in behind me. He looked disheveled, his tie loose. Want to tell me what that phone call was about? He demanded as we entered the house. Which part? I moved to the kitchen, starting dinner like nothing was wrong. The lying or the money? You don't understand. No, you don't understand. I turned to face him. I understand everything. Every late night, every lie. Every dollar you and Marissa thought you could hide. His face went pale. How did you— 15 years, Dylan. Did you really think I was that stupid? I checked my phone. A text from Edmund. Just finished at the FBI office. I'm sorry, Anne. We need to talk, Dylan said, his charm sliding back into place. I can explain everything. Oh, we'll talk, I smiled. But first, you might want to call your lawyer. I have a feeling you're going to need one. The look of dawning horror on his face was worth every second of the past 3 weeks of pretense. I found Marissa in the coffee shop where she and Dylan usually met, her perfectly manicured nails drumming against her paper cup. She didn't look surprised to see me. I wondered when you'd show up, she said, as I sat down across from her. Did you really think you'd get away with it? I placed my phone on the table, recording app running. The money, the affair, all of it. She took a careful sip of coffee. You don't know what you're talking about. $2 million. Marissa, that's what you withdrew from the Cayman account. I slid a printout across the table. In cash, very old school. Her composure cracked slightly. Dylan said you were clueless. Dylan says a lot of things, like how he's going to marry you after the divorce. I watched her face carefully. Did he promise to buy you that house in the Hamptons too? She flinched. Funny thing about Dylan, I continued. He made the same promises to his first wife. Before me. Did you know about her? Marissa's cup froze, halfway to her lips. What? Oh, he didn't tell you? I pulled out another document. Let me guess. He said I was his college sweetheart, his first love. You're lying. Sarah was her name. They were married for 3 years before he met me. She was his secretary, too. I smiled without humor. History really does repeat itself. Why are you telling me this? Because right now, you have a choice. I leaned forward. The FBI is investigating the fraud. Edmund's already talking. How long before they trace those cash withdrawals back to you? Her face went pale. Edmund wouldn't. He already did. This morning. I showed her my phone, a text from Gianna, confirming Edmund's second FBI interview. Dylan's going down. The only question is whether you're going down with him. What do you want? Her voice was barely a whisper. Everything you know. Every transaction. Every meeting. Every lie he told his investors. I pushed a business card across the table. My lawyer's number. Call her within the hour or I call the FBI. He'll kill me. No. He'll abandon you, just like he abandoned Sarah, just like he tried to abandon me. I stood up. 1 hour, Marissa. Make the right choice. My phone rang as I left the coffee shop. Dylan. Where are you? He sounded frantic. Having coffee with your girlfriend. Well, ex-girlfriend now, I think. She's about to make a very important phone call. Anne, stop this. We can work something out. Like you work things out with Sarah? The silence on his end was deafening. That's what I thought, I said. By the way, the FBI wants to meet tomorrow. Should I tell them about the Johnson merger, or would you prefer to do that yourself? You're making a mistake. His voice turned cold. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Actually, I do. That's why I made copies of everything. If anything happens to me, every newspaper in the country gets the full story. I paused. Oh, and Dylan. I'm keeping the kitchen. I hung up as Bailey pulled up in her car. How'd it go? She asked as I got in. Better than expected. Marissa didn't know about Sarah. No one ever does. Bailey checked her rearview mirror. Dylan's car just pulled into the coffee shop parking lot. Think he'll catch her before she calls Gianna. Doesn't matter. I showed her my phone. A text from Gianna. Marissa just called. She's singing like a bird. You know he's not going to give up easily, Bailey said as we drove away. I'm counting on it. I checked another text. This one from Edmund. Just sent you the last of the documents. Good luck tomorrow. My phone buzzed again. Mom, this time. I let it go to voicemail. She'd been calling since Sunday dinner, probably to lecture me about being a better wife. You don't have to do this alone, Bailey said softly. I'm not alone. I squeezed her hand. I have you, and Gianna, and even Edmund now. Dylan's the one who's alone. Speaking of alone, Bailey grinned. Wait until you see tomorrow's paper. Someone may have tipped off a reporter about Dylan's creative accounting. Bailey, what did you do? Let's just say his country club friends are going to have some interesting breakfast reading. As if on cue, my phone lit up with a text from Dylan. Turn on the news, now. Bailey turned on the car radio. The business report was just starting. Breaking news in the financial sector as allegations of fraud surface against prominent investment firm. Well, I said, sitting back with a smile. I guess tomorrow's FBI meeting just got more interesting. Want to bet how long before Marissa turns over those cash withdrawal receipts? No bet. I watched the coffee shop disappear in the side mirror. She already did. The courtroom fell silent as I took the stand. Dylan sat at the defendant's table, still wearing his signature confident smile. But I could see the cracks in his facade. His lawyer looked nervous, shuffling papers without really reading them. Mrs. McBride, Gianna began. Can you tell the court when you first became aware of the financial irregularities in your husband's business? Objection. Dylan's lawyer jumped up. This divorce proceeding isn't the place for allegations of corporate misconduct. Judge Naomi leaned forward. Given that the alleged misconduct directly affects the marital assets, I'll allow it. Continue, Mrs. McBride. I straightened my shoulders. I discovered the irregularities 3 weeks ago when I overheard my husband discussing them with his secretary, Marissa. And what exactly did you overhear? He was planning to hide assets before filing for divorce. He mentioned moving money offshore and specifically discussed using funds from the Johnson merger for personal expenses. Dylan's smile faltered slightly. Did you take any action after hearing this conversation? Yes, I began gathering documentation of suspicious transfers and contacted the proper authorities. Your Honor, I handed over a thick folder. I'd like to submit these bank records as evidence. Dylan leaned over to whisper something to his lawyer, who shook his head sharply. Mrs. McBride, Gianna continued, could you tell the court about the prenuptial agreement? The original agreement, or the forged one my husband substituted after our wedding? A murmur ran through the courtroom. Dylan's face went pale. Objection. His lawyer shouted again. This is speculation. Actually, Gianna held up 2 documents. We have both versions here, along with a forensic analysis confirming the forgery. The notary has provided a sworn statement. Judge Naomi examined the documents carefully. Objection overruled. And Mr. McBride, I suggest you sit still and stop passing notes to your client. Mrs. McBride, Gianna turned back to me. How long were you aware of your husband's relationship with his secretary? Objection. Relevance. Goes to pattern of deception, Your Honor, and directly relates to the dissipation of marital assets. Overruled. Answer the question, Mrs. McBride. I discovered their affair the same day I learned about the financial fraud. They were planning to use my portion of the marital assets to buy a house in the Hamptons. The courtroom doors opened quietly, and I saw Edmund slip in, followed by 2 FBI agents. Dylan's face went from pale to ashen. And what happened to those plans? They fell apart when Marissa learned she wasn't the first secretary he'd made those promises to. Objection. Dylan stood up this time. This is character assassination. Sit down, Mr. McBride, Judge Naomi warned. One more outburst, and you'll be held in contempt. Mrs. McBride, Gianna pulled out one final document. Could you identify this? I looked at the paper. That's a bank statement showing cash withdrawals made by Marissa, totaling $2 million. And where did that money come from? From investor funds my husband diverted to offshore accounts. Your Honor, Dylan's lawyer interrupted. We request a recess to confer with our client. Denied. Judge Naomi's voice was steel. Continue, counselor. One final question, Gianna said. Why are you pursuing this divorce action now, rather than waiting for your husband to file as he planned? I looked directly at Dylan for the first time, because no one deserves to be treated like they're worthless. Not me, not his first wife Sarah, and not the investors who trusted him with their money. No further questions, Your Honor. Dylan's lawyer declined to cross-examine me, probably sensing the damage was already done. Your Honor, one of the FBI agents stepped forward. We have a warrant for Mr. McBride's arrest. The courtroom erupted in chaos. Dylan tried to bolt, but was quickly detained. As they let him out, he caught my eye. You'll regret this, he snarled. No, I replied calmly. I only regret not doing it sooner. Judge Naomi banged her gavel. Given the evidence presented and Mr. McBride's imminent criminal charges, I'm prepared to rule on the divorce petition. Mrs. McBride, you're awarded the house, your personal assets, and 50% of all marital property not subject to federal seizure. Furthermore, given the fraudulent prenuptial agreement, that document is hereby nullified. I felt Bailey squeeze my hand from her seat behind me. One more thing, the judge added. Mrs. McBride, the FBI may want to speak with you about becoming a witness in their case. I'm ready, I said, watching as Dylan was escorted out. I've been ready for weeks. As we left the courtroom, Gianna smiled. Want to guess what Marissa's doing right now? Meeting with prosecutors? Smart girl. She checked her phone. Ready for phase 2. I thought about my kitchen, about the life I'd built, about all the other women like Sarah who'd been discarded. Absolutely. It's time to help others fight back. The headlines were everywhere. Investment banker faces 20 years for fraud. McBride empire crumbles. Secretary turns state's evidence. I sat in my kitchen, reading them over coffee when the doorbell rang. Your mom's been calling me non-stop, Bailey said, walking in with a box of pastries. She's beside herself about the scandal. Let me guess. She thinks I should have kept quiet to save the family name. Actually, Bailey grinned. Dad finally told her off. Said his daughter wasn't raised to be anyone's doormat. My phone buzzed. Gianna, turn on Channel 7, now. The TV flickered to life, showing Marissa outside the federal courthouse, surrounded by reporters. Ms. Sullivan, what made you come forward? Marissa looked different, smaller somehow, without her perfect makeup and designer clothes. Someone showed me I had a choice, that I didn't have to be part of his lies anymore. Any comment on the other victims coming forward? I'd like to apologize to Sarah and to Anne. We all deserved better. Bailey whistled low. Didn't expect that. Neither did I. I turned off the TV as another text came through. From Edmund. Meeting with prosecutors in an hour. You were right about everything. You know, Bailey said, for someone who just took down her cheating husband's entire criminal enterprise, you seem pretty calm. I'm saving my energy. I showed her an email from the women's shelter. We're launching the legal aid program next month. Already have 3 lawyers volunteering. And how many clients? 12 so far. Turns out Dylan wasn't the only husband in town with creative accounting habits. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Sarah, Dylan's first wife. We'd connected through Edmund after everything came out. Just saw Marissa's interview, she said, stepping inside. Never thought I'd see the day. Neither did I. I poured her coffee. How are you holding up? Better than Dylan. She smiled grimly. My lawyer says with the new evidence, we can reopen my divorce settlement. Good. I handed her a business card. Gianna's expecting your call. You know what's funny? Sarah accepted the card. For years, I thought it was my fault, that I wasn't smart enough, pretty enough, good enough. He had a way of making us feel that way, I agreed. Had, Bailey emphasized, past tense. My phone rang, an unknown number. I answered on speaker. Anne? Dylan's voice was desperate. Please, you have to help me. Tell them I didn't mean to. Goodbye, Dylan. I hung up. He called you? Sarah looked shocked. From jail? Third time this week. I blocked the number. He's running out of options. Edmund's testimony destroyed his defense strategy. And Marissa's evidence, Bailey added. And the forensic accountants, Sarah continued. We all laughed. 3 women who'd once been under Dylan's spell, now free. The front door opened, and Dad walked in carrying files. Thought you might want these, he said, setting them down. Every investment record from when Dylan first joined the firm. The prosecutors said it helps establish pattern and intent. Thanks, Dad. I hugged him tight. Your mother wants to come over, he said quietly. She's been doing a lot of thinking. Tell her I'm free for dinner. I stepped back. As long as she's ready to listen, not lecture. Oh, she'll listen, he smiled. She saw the proof of what he did to your prenup. Called him some words I didn't know she knew. My phone buzzed again. Gianna, Dylan's lawyer wants to make a deal. Full confession in exchange for reduced charges. Want to hear the terms? No deals. I texted back. Let him face the jury. That's my girl, came her reply. Sarah stood up. I should go. My lawyer's waiting. She paused at the door. Thank you, Anne, for being stronger than I was. Hey, I caught her arm. We were both strong. We just didn't know it then. After everyone left, I stood in my kitchen, the one Dylan and Marissa had planned to gut, and felt the silence. Not the heavy silence of secrets and lies, but the peaceful quiet of truth. My phone lit up with a news alert. McBride case expands. More victims come forward. I smiled, thinking of the women at the shelter, of Sarah rebuilding her life, of Marissa choosing truth over comfort, even of my mother finally questioning her beliefs about perfect marriages. The doorbell rang one more time. A delivery man held out a package. Sign here, Mrs. McBride? I took the pen. Actually, I said, writing my maiden name. It's just Anne now. Inside the package was my new business card. Anne Mitchell, Advocacy Director, Women's Legal Defense Fund. Perfect. The verdict took 12 minutes. I watched Dylan's face as the jury foreman stood, his practiced charm finally cracking as guilty echoed through the courtroom 7 times. 1 count for each year he'd been defrauding investors. 20 years, Bailey whispered, squeezing my hand. No parole. Dylan turned to look at me as they led him away. I met his gaze steadily, remembering how those eyes once made my heart race. Now I felt nothing but calm. Ready for your speech? Gianna appeared beside me, holding a folder. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters and cameras. Sarah stood to my left, Marissa to my right, 3 women united by one man's betrayal, now standing together for something bigger. Mrs. Mitchell, a reporter called out, "What's your response to the verdict?" I stepped up to the microphones. Today isn't about Dylan. It's about every person who's been made to feel worthless by someone they trusted. It's about speaking up, standing together, and reclaiming our power. Is it true you're opening a women's advocacy center? Yes, I gestured to Sarah and Marissa. We're converting Dylan's old office building into a resource center for survivors of financial abuse and fraud. The Women's Legal Defense Fund will provide free legal aid, financial counseling, and support services. Ms. Sullivan, another reporter, turned to Marissa. Any regrets about testifying? Only that I didn't come forward sooner. She straightened her shoulders. But thanks to Anne, I learned it's never too late to choose differently. My phone buzzed. Mom, watching you on TV. So proud of my brave girl. Dinner tonight. Sarah, a voice called out. What's your role in all this? I'm heading up our survivor mentorship program. Sarah replied. No one should have to navigate this journey alone. Back in my kitchen, my beloved unchanged kitchen, Bailey poured wine, while Gianna spread out blueprints for the new center. Edmund called, Gianna said. The SEC approved our application for the whistleblower reward funds, $2 million, earmarked for the center's operating costs. Poetic justice, Bailey laughed. Dylan's hidden money funding a center to help his victims. The doorbell rang. Mom stood there, holding a casserole and looking uncertain. I brought your favorite, she said hesitantly, and an apology. I pulled her into a hug. Come in, we're planning the center's opening. Actually, she set down the casserole. I was wondering if you could use another volunteer. I may not be a lawyer, but I make a mean cup of coffee, and I'm good at listening. We could always use more listeners, Sarah said warmly. My phone lit up with a message from one of our new clients. Judge granted the emergency order. Kids and I are safe. Thank you. Look at this, Marissa called from the living room, where she was updating our website. 5 more requests for legal aid just came in. Good thing we have 3 new lawyers starting next week, Gianna said. Make that 4. Mom pulled out her phone. Your cousin Rachel's firm wants to help. She says it's time to put her divorce experience to good use. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Dad, carrying boxes of office supplies donated by his company. Where do you want these? He asked, then saw Mom. Oh, you finally came. I finally listened, she corrected, helping him with the boxes. My phone buzzed one last time. A call from prison. I declined it, blocking another of Dylan's burner numbers. You know what I just realized? Bailey said, looking around at everyone working together. He thought he was ruining your life, but he actually helped you find your purpose. No, I corrected her, watching Mom and Dad arrange supplies while Sarah and Marissa worked on the website. We found our purpose, all of us. Speaking of purpose, Gianna held up a document. The judge approved your name change. It's official. The Anne McBride Foundation is now the Phoenix Rising Women's Center. Perfect name, Mom said softly. Rising from the ashes, stronger than before. I looked around my kitchen, no longer just mine, but a gathering place for this unlikely family we'd built. Where once there were secrets and lies, now there was purpose and truth. Where Dylan had planned destruction, we were creating something beautiful. To Phoenix Rising, Bailey raised her glass. To rising together, everyone echoed. My phone stayed silent this time. Dylan's number was blocked, his power gone, his legacy transformed into something he never intended. Hope for others. Outside, the sun set on another day of freedom. Inside, we plan tomorrow's battles, stronger together than we ever were alone. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting better and helping others do the same.